Hey guys, welcome back to another series of analyzing Traxler's defense. So this will continue on from our last video that we made, especially from when our knight takes e4, checking the king that is on f2. So let's begin. E4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, knight f6, and knight g5. Alright, when bishop plays to c5, standard opening for Traxler is knight takes f7, and our bishop will reply with taking f2. Alright, let's just flip the board around so it's on our side. As you can see here, bishop takes f2, check, king takes f2, and this is where I'm talking about with the new variations of knight taking e4, check. Alright, knight takes e4, king g1, queen, same as normal, h4, and this time queen will play f3. As we've seen before, after queen plays f3, knight will come up to d4, attacking the queen, and queen will fall back now to f1. Alright, as we can see, this queen is still on this f file, and so what we're going to do is we'll move this rook to f7, pinning that knight, and soon after we can probably play a combination of moves to at least block this bishop here on c4, allowing us to take that rook. Okay, so after rook f8, white will play g3, try and reduce the attack on the king side, trying to force the queen to move away. But queen, however, will just move to h5, focusing the attack on the rook, as well as still applying pressure on this attack on the king. Alright, so after that, queen will play g2, move away from the pin, as well as threatening to take that e4 knight. Alright, after that, black will play d5, and as you can see, we're attacking both the bishop as well as the blocking the defense for the knight. So let's see what white does in this case. After d5, if bishop was to take over here, as you can see, we can, what can we do here? We can check the king up here with our knight, forcing the king to move here to f1, and we get a skewer with our bishop here on h3. Alright, so white wants to avoid that, so instead of taking the pawn, white will reply with h4. So blocking that h3 square, so if that bishop does come to h3 later on, there's no defense there's no piece defending it. So knight will play f3, check, and king will play f1 this time, as it's the only move that the king can move to, and queen will play f7, attacking that knight. So taking that knight, we defend the pawn, attacking the bishop, and our knight on f3 will be able to move away and open a check for the king. Alright, after queen takes f7, we have bishop e2, attacking that knight as well as protecting that f3 square as well, in case if the queen wants to come in to white's territory. Alright, from here, our knight will play h4, checking the king, attacking the queen, and king will move to e1, to which knight can just take g2, and king will move to d1. And as you can see here, it looks like a big win already with the queen, but we can finish it off by playing knight f2, checkmate. Alright. As we can see, we're going to be going through another variation. This time, if white makes a poor move and plays after knight e4 check, king will play f3. This is weak for a variety of reasons, and one of them being that his king is exposed, open for all attacks from other pieces, such as the bishop on c8. If we're able to develop our pawn on d7, maybe a simple attack like that, maybe you can get our bishop to skewer the knight and the king and the queen. All right, so knight e4 check, king plays to f3, black will play queen f6, to which king will play e3, king e3 over here, and queen will go up to f2 check. King e4 will take the knight, d5, bishop will take d5, and bishop f5, checkmate. Right. And just to those who are wondering, if instead of bishop playing d5, if king was to take d5, a simple checkmate on queen d4 would win the game. A new quick checkmate we can go through is a quick... Alright, so after knight f6, knight g5, bishop f5, knight takes f7, bishop takes f2, king takes f2, knight e4. King will play to e1 this time, and a quick checkmate after king e1 is, as we can see, queen h4 as usual. Instead, white blunders and plays king e2. Moving your king often is really bad, as especially with just using the king. You're not using a lot of your moves to develop your pieces. So black takes advantage. Queen f2 check, king plays to d3, just over here. Knight c5, and as with knight coming to c5 over there, king plays c3, and a queen d4 checkmate. As you can see, the two knights block all the escape paths on king's b file. And yeah, checkmate. Alright, another variation after knight takes e4 is king will play to g1, queen will go h4, g3 as usual, knight will take g3, h will take g3 this time, and now queen will play g3. Alright, as you can see, our queen is, the white king is heavily exposed. There's no pawns surrounding it, and it's just the queen over here that can help defend, if anything. But the king is in imminent threat. Checkmate. So after queen takes g3, king will play f1. It's the only safe move. Black will play d5, attacking the bishop, as well as allowing this bishop on c8 to soon develop. So bishop will play e2, go down to say defend this f file as well on the diagonal. All right, so f3, g4, and h5 as well. As we can see here, now that there's no defense on the knight, instead of taking it, we can do a simple castle. By castling, the knight is still pinned, unable to move because of that king. It's such a nuisance. Alright, d3. White will play d3. Try and develop this bishop to come out. However, our rook is one step ahead. Black is one step ahead, and rook will take f7. Bishop will play f3 to defend. However, it's not the best move because it's still putting the king. The king is still pinned by the rook. All right. After bishop 3, rook can take f3. Simple as that. King will play e2 and queen f2 checkmate. Just goes to show how very powerful this Traxler opening is. There is absolutely no chance for white if he takes the bait. So as you guys have probably already noticed, that the series is focused on following up after knight e4 check, So bishop takes f2, king takes f2, and this knight over here on f6 playing e4. So most of the variations stem from here because the options that white has are copious. He has a copious amount of options to choose from. As you can see here, knight e4, we've seen in the past king f3, we've had king e1, king f1, as well as king g1. Or even king e3 as well. So as you can see here, for this move, we're going to be playing king g1 again, queen to h4, queen f3 over here, and we'll play knight d4, attacking that queen, as well as threatening to take that c2 pawn, taking that rook in exchange. After knight d4, queen will play to h3, wanting to swap with the queens. As we've seen here, however, by white playing to h3, wanting to swap the queens, he leaves the e1 spot vulnerable. So queen will play e1, check, there's no defense from the queen whatsoever. Bishop will play f1, and a simple checkmate with queen f2 over there. That f2 pawn is very weak, or that f2 square, there's no defense on it. So black is able to utilize it, take it to its advantage, and checkmate that king. Alright, so after this knight e4, same variation, king will play to e2, and now instead of queen h4, as usual, as we can see, the king has put himself in a position of check, so we're able to utilize our knight. So knight this time will play d4 instead, allowing both knights to control the center before we utilize our queen. Alright, so knight d4, king will play e3, move down, queen will now play h4, and rook will play f1. Rook playing f1 will defend the queen from coming up to the f2 square. So by defending that, black needs to find another way to try and attack the king. So a good move would be d5. As you can see, by playing d5, we open the bishop, and so let's see what white does. White responds with bishop takes d5, to which our bishop will play g4. We're attacking the queen, threatening it. As you can see, there's no white space for the queen to move on, so it forces white to play to, let's see what white does. Bishop g4, and rook blocks it instead. Alright. Reason why queen can't play here is because knight will take c2, double the king and the queen. So the best option white has to do is to play rook f3, sacrifice its rook. Alright. So bishop will take f3, and g4, rook f3, bishop takes f3, g takes f3, replying, and from there knight will play f5 check. As you can see, there is 3 pieces developed here for black, and there are only 2 pieces developed for white. However, that king is in a very bad spot, allowing black to gain plenty of tempo. Alright, after knight f5, as we can move white will move is king e2, and queen will reply with f2 check, checking the king, and king will play d3, moving away as its only spot is there. Queen d4 check, king will play back up, and knight f to g3 will check there. As you can see, we're wanting to sacrifice the knight, and of course we use the knight on f because the knight on e4 is defending that f2 square. So knight f3, knight fg3, and let's see what happens here. H takes g3, knight takes g3, king e1, and checkmate on g1 over here. Standard sub-variation that we'll be looking at now is after knight e4. As we've seen before, how later on this pawn here on g2 will play g3. So we'll get into it now. We'll talk about it more in depth later on. So after knight e4, king will play f1, queen h4, and queen will play f3. White will reply with f3, to which our knight, as usual, will attack that queen by playing d4. And however, as you can see, now that we're attacking the queen, white wants to do a swap. If we take white's queen, white will take our queen back. However, queen will play h3 check. Small blunder from white. Queen will play g2, moving away from the attack on that knight and defending the king. Queen will play f5 check. King will play to e1, and knight c2 will be a win for black. As we can see, we've taken the pawn on c2, attacking the king and the rook, and pretty much it's a big lose for white, because later on we can start applying pressure on this bishop on c4, maybe removing the defense on that knight, able for our king to take it, and then still capture that rook in there at a1. So this time we'll be talking about the second out of the third sub-variation of g3 for this series. So after king takes f2, knight takes knight e4 check, king will play to e2, king e2, to which knight play d4, king e3, moves down, and queen h4. As I was saying, the sub-variation for g3, white will play g3 to attack. Another bold move here from black. As we can see, this knight here on e4 will want to take g3. So the knight sacrifices itself to take g3. So we'll see what happens from here. H will reply with g3, and queen will take g3. The main purpose of sacrificing another knight is to completely remove all the pawns from h to e, allowing the king to be fully exposed and render him defenseless. So queen takes g3, check, king will play to e4, and as we can see, he's in the same position as what we've seen in previous moves before, where the king is on e4 and the bishop is still on c4, and it allows black to open up on d5 over here. This time, the king knows that he is fully exposed, and by taking with the bishop, he traps himself. So white chooses to play king d5, try and hide away from the queen. However, black is still in the lead here positionally. Bishop will play to e6, sacrificing yet another piece if wanted. However, white doesn't want to fall for the trap, so instead of taking the bishop on e6, he moves to c5, wanting to trade it off with the bishop. If black takes, then white takes, allowing him to relieve some of the pressure and hopefully to escape. So, however, black doesn't follow up with taking that bishop on c4, so black plays b6, checking the king. Constant attacks from black here. As you can see, the king has moved at least 4 to 5 times, 6, 7 times throughout this game, and yet all of the other pieces are still intact in their section. Alright, so after b6, king will play to b4, trying to escape. Black plays yet another attack, a5, check. All these pieces are being developed. King plays to a4. Bishop will play d7, check the king. And bishop will play b5, try and defend. I'm wanting to swap off the bishop to relieve some pressure. However, because of that knight here on d4, bishop can take and checkmating the king. The king is unable to move up to this a3 square because the queen is guiding that whole line. And finally, the last variation that we will be going over with the g3 sub-variation. Alright, we'll get into it now. Knight e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6 as usual. Bishop c5, knight takes, bishop takes, king takes, knight e4. This time, king e2. Queen h4. Queen h4. g3 over here. Knight d4 check. To which the king will play d3. And knight will play f2. Checking both the king and the queen. However, it's not entirely a win yet because due to the fact that the g3 pawn is still attacking our queen. So we could swap queens. However, king will play c3. And it is a win actually for black because white has nowhere else to go. That will get him out of check for the next move. So king can't play to e4, can play to e3, but knight d1 is still a check. He can play to c3 as well. However, white cannot play to e2 because of that knight, or take that knight because of the queen and the pawn defending it. So king will play c3, knight will take d1, and rook will reply by taking back that knight. And from here, queen will play e4, trying to get closer to the king so he can make more attacks. But white will try and utilize the bishop and try and relieve some pressure. So he plays d3. However, black will still attack with knight e2. Checking the king, attacking that bishop. However, the queen is still being attacked by that d3 pawn. Alright, so king will play d2. Hiding away from the queen. However, it does block that bishop from coming out and being utilized. Alright, after king plays to d2, queen will play g2. So moving behind the knight. So if that knight moves, the king will be checked. King, however, goes down to e3. Still attacking that knight and allowing the bishop to get a bit of breathing space. Knight will play d4. Moving away. And now this queen is controlling this file up here. This rank, sorry. Alright. After knight d4, knight will play e5, taking that pawn. White has said it's enough for that knight to stay there, and it's not going to be any hope for that knight to take the h8 rook because it will pretty much be trapped if black can get this bishop to move away. So it's another piece lost. So white tells himself it's much better to take this e5 pawn and hopefully use this knight to defend the king. But black just continuously demolishes white by taking c2, and that rook will be taken as well. check with the king as well. So king will play to f4, king f4, and queen will play f2, checking the king. Alright. Knight will play f3, blocking the king. The king doesn't have to move any further. The knight's there to block it. However, rook f8 from black is a very strong move, because once that king moves, it's a free piece for black. So rook f8, king e4, and as you can see, queen takes f3, king will move to e5 as it's the only place he could go to, and last but not least, d6 checkmate. Now, if we just slowly observe the position here from white, we can see that black has three pieces utilized. It's the rook on f8, the queen on f3, and the knight on c2. Whereas throughout the game, white has moved his king 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times throughout this game, which is probably a big number for the early game. So as you can see, by using Traxler's defense and black sacrificing that bishop on f2 to move the king out, shows that the rewards are high for the stakes that you're doing. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching today's video. Stay tuned, and hopefully we'll see you next time.
Alright. Okay.